If you don't have any savings, the very first thing you got to do is save $2,000 to protect you against an emergency and put this money aside in a separate bank account that's there not to buy a home, not to buy a car, not to buy something from Gucci, but to protect you against an emergency. And the reason why you need to have this $2,000 put aside is because life happens. It happens to every single one of us. Maybe you get pulled over by a cop. Maybe something happens to your kid. Maybe something breaks with your car. Life happens. It happens to every single one of us. But if you're not prepared for this with some sort of financial cushion, you're going to be the one that pays the price, because now either you're going to have to sell out your investments, which you didn't want to do at that time because the markets just happen to be crashing when that emergency happens, or maybe that means you're going to have to go into credit card debt, which is actually what most people end up doing when an expense comes up and you don't have the money for it. Now, not only do you have to pay $2,000 to cover the broken water heater, but then you're gonna have to pay an additional $800 in interest on your credit card to pay it back because you weren't prepared. And that's why you wanna be prepared, because life happens, we know this. And the wealthy are working to be prepared. So the first thing that I'll be doing now in the practical steps is work to save $2,000 as fast as possible and doing whatever I need to do to save the $2,000 and put it aside in a separate savings account. And this is not money that I'm going to use to spend at Gucci. This is money that's there to protect me against an emergency. Once I do that, then the next thing that I'm going to do is work to pay off high interest debts like credit card debts. And the reason why I'm going to do this, before I think about investing my money, before I think about putting my money in the stock market or doing any of that other stuff, is because I know that these credit card companies, if I have credit card debt, is costing me 15, 20, 25, 28% a year in interest, versus the historical stock market return over the last century is something like 10% a year. So now, if I can work to pay down my credit card debt 1 year faster, I'm going to get a better return than investing my money in the stock market. Not to mention, I'm going to get a guaranteed return by paying down my credit card debt, versus by investing my money in the stock market, I'm hoping to get a good return. And this is where it is so important for you to get very aggressive here to pay down this credit card debt, because this is what holds so many people back from ever becoming wealthy. Because when you're constantly in credit card debt, you can't think about building your wealth upwards. All you're trying to do is get to zero. And that's why during these 2 steps of this checklist, you have to be extremely aggressive. That means during this phase, you're gonna have to make financial sacrifices. That means maybe you gotta stop eating at restaurants. Maybe you gotta cancel that vacation. Maybe you gotta live in a smaller apartment. Maybe you're gonna have to sell the BMW. And these are financial sacrifices that are very hard to do, but until you get committed, it is gonna be extremely difficult for you to get to even zero on your wealth scale. I want you to get to $1 million and beyond, but you can't get to $1 million and beyond until you at least get to zero. And if you're stuck here, you're just running in circles trying to get to zero. And that's why you have to get extremely aggressive. And what I like to tell people is, until you have this done, until you have your credit card debt paid off, and until you have this $2,000 saved up, you shouldn't even have a Netflix subscription. Now you might say, Jaspreet, what the heck are you talking about? Netflix is $15 a month. What difference is that gonna make of me saving this $2,000 and having this credit card debt paid off? Well, what you have to remember is the real cost of Netflix isn't the $15 a month that you gotta pay. It's the 2 hours of your life that you're investing into Netflix, when you could be using that time to learn more about how do you earn more money, how do you pay down your debts, how do you build your financial education, how do you build a business, how do you improve your career, how do you get a different certificate, how can you improve where you are financially. And if you don't have these 2 things done, you are in what I like to call the financial danger zone. And if you are in that financial danger zone, you should not have the comfort or luxury of sitting there watching Netflix when you are paying 25% a year to the credit card company. Because that 25% a year that you're paying to the credit card company is making them rich at your expense. And I want you to make yourself rich instead of them rich. But in order for you to make yourself rich, you got to make those sacrifices to stop making the credit card company richer. And you got to have this $2,000. That's why I'm so passionate and aggressive by these 2 things. Because if you don't have this, you're never going to have the opportunity to ever build wealth, which is why you need to get very aggressive about this and work to pay down the credit card debt aggressively, get rid of the Netflix, spend your time and spend your money figuring out how you can get out of the system. That way you can at least get to zero, because once you get to zero, now it's all about how do you build upwards. So now that we got this done, let's move on to number 4, which is now building a financial system for your money, following something like a 75-15-10 plan. Now, after I work to pay down my credit card debt, this is where I need to give every dollar that I earn from here on out a job. I didn't need to do that before, because before, every time I had an extra dollar, either I'm going to work to save that $2,000 or I'm going to use that extra dollar to pay down my credit card debt. Now that I've zeroed out my credit card debts, Now that I have a couple grand in the bank, this is where I have a little bit of financial cushion and I can use my money a little bit more strategically, and this is where I want to be proactive, because I know what wealthy people do is they have a plan for their money before they earn their money. But what everybody else does, what the majority of people do, is they make money, they spend their money, and then they wonder where all their money went. No more of that. And this is where I would want to build a financial system, something like a 75-15-10 plan, which says for every dollar that I earn from here on out, 75 cents is the maximum that I can spend, 15 cents is the minimum that I'm investing, and 10 cents is the minimum that I'm saving. Now, the whole point behind this savings money is there to protect me against an emergency. This investment money is there to make me wealthy. This spending money is what I use to look rich. This is what I use to eat. This is what I use to pay for my home. This is what I use to pay for my car. This is what I use to pay for everything else, all the things that are not really there to make me wealthy. These investments are there to make me wealthy, and this investment is not money I'm using to buy a down payment for my home that I want to live in. These are true investments, and this 10 is my savings cushion to protect me against an emergency. Now, the first question that I always get when I talk about this is, well, Jaspreet, should this be gross income or should this be net income? Should this be my pre-tax income or post-tax income? And the thing that I like to say here is your investments are what's going to make you wealthy. The more money you invest, the wealthier you're going to become. But you have to just get started. Because if you have no investments right now, just get started. Start with your pre-tax income. Start with your post-tax income. It does not matter, but you got to get started. You want to invest more aggressively here. That way you have more money to invest. And so this is where you don't want to necessarily get caught in the nitty-gritty of things, but just get started. If you can't start with 75, 15, 10, start with wherever you can, and then keep working towards 75, 15, 10 of every dollar that hits your bank account. And then maybe you can be even more aggressive with your investments. Maybe you work to make this 70, 20, 10. You do what's right for you, but remember, the more aggressively you invest, the more wealth you'll be able to potentially build, because now you're putting more money aside into your investments. Now, I'm not going over just yet where I'm going to be investing money. I'm going to be saving that in the coming steps of this checklist. You'll see just why. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to create this funnel, this system where I know my money is being separated. I know that this is the max that I can spend. This is the minimum that I'm investing. This is the minimum that I'm saving. And ideally, you're going to create 3 different bank accounts, because now you don't want to accidentally spend this money or spend this money. So create 3 different bank accounts. That way when you get paid, your paycheck goes here, and then you have an automatic pool of this money that goes into a different account and a different account. So you have 3 different bank accounts, and most banks will do this for you for free. This way now you know which cash is supposed to be there to make you wealthy, to invest for you. You know which cash is supposed to protect you against an emergency, and you know which cash you're supposed to use to buy that extra guac. If you enjoyed this clip and you want to continue your financial education journey, I have another video that I think you'll love. All you got to do is click that button right over there. And for those of you who want to stay up to date on the top finance and business news, you can join Market Briefs, my free financial newsletter, by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.